It's so weird how it becomes a privilege to do something
Even
that you
for
When
love.
people
silent
ask, why
films,
did you get
just
your bachelor's?
anything
Educated.
art based in general
Mm.
is quite difficult.
Okay, professional.
Welcome to the Mukundi Foundation Limited podcast series. For more information on what this podcast is about, check out our introduction video on YouTube at Tanaka Mapundira. For now, let's get into this episode.
All right. My name is Tatenda George Mundondwa, hence the Tatenda G for my radio, radio name. So it's literally my name. So I am a radio presenter at I think one of the biggest urban radio stations in Zimbabwe, which is ZFM, and I'm also a statistician slash mathematician. I I did my varsity at the UZ, where I did a double major in statistics. So a bit of myself, a background of Tatenda G. So I was born and raised in Harare. Well, we used to move a lot because of my dad's job. So I was born in Harare. I grew up in Harare, went to Mutare for like 5 years. I did my grade 1 and 2 there, came back to Harare, moved to Gweru, came back to Harare again, stayed in Masvingo as well, came back to Harare. So I was just moving around, and that kind of shaped my character because I've stayed in different kinds of environments with different people, different backgrounds, different yeah. So that kind of it was like a fusion of different backgrounds that made me the kind of person that I am.
Yeah.
So I did my primary in like 3 or 4 different schools, and then high school I was in boarding school. So yeah, it didn't really the moving around didn't really affect my high school. So that's when I discovered that I was an art person. Well, actually, no. Back in primary, because I used to be in the marimba band. I used to play marimba.
Yeah.
I think when I was grade 4, and I was in the. Funny enough, it's so funny. I was in the traditional dance group.
Oh,
I used to
wow.
like, yeah, playing the ngoma and all of that. And I joined the school choir as well. And then high school, that's when everything just started making sense for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but actually before high school, I remember in primary, I was our class DJ. We used to have like end of year parties. They would know that I'm the one bringing the music. I'm the one bringing the radio,
Yeah.
and yeah. So I was in charge of that. So when I went to high school now, everything just was like amplified because that's when I started writing my own songs. I was in the drama club. I was in the debate club. I was into public speaking,
Mm.
and that's when I discovered, yo, man, I'm talented in some of these things. Being on stage was like a thing for me. If there was a speech or something, I was always called in to either be the MC or I don't know. That's when I realized, yo, I actually have something.
Yeah.
So I started singing as well with a group of friends. And fast forward, I then went to varsity, enrolled, started doing my bachelor's in statistics and mathematics. And the idea of being on radio hadn't started growing in me. I just really loved radio, but it didn't really register that I could venture into it. Up until I then finished varsity. After varsity, I started working for um, a business and research consultancy firm, and as a statistician there. I got the job as an intern, and then I started working as a statistician there. And then I remember this one year, I think it was 2018, no, 2019.
Mm.
I really loved Twitter, and I went on Twitter. I was like, "Yo, guys, I love radio. I love being on radio. I may not particularly have the private school accent and the good English, but I really enjoy radio."
Yeah.
And I remember KVG saw that tweet and then she responded to it and she's like, yo, you know what would you want to be called on radio? What name would you want to be called on radio? Let's just start building your radio career right now.
Wow.
And I said, yo, I'll just want to be called Tatenda G. Those are my names. And she was like, oh, okay, cool. And what kind of style are you into? We just started having a back and forth on my tweet.
Uh-huh.
So many people saw the tweet based on her tweeting about it. I mean, responding to the tweet.
Yeah.
And Danny, that guy from ZFM, saw the tweet and he just slid in my DMs. It's like, yo, just come through to the station for an audition or an audition. We'll record you. We'll just audition and see what you got.
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, oh, okay. So when you called me in, I remember I went there. It was a Friday. I get there and it's like, yo, okay, this is the station. He started introducing me to a couple of people, a couple of presenters. I remember I met Miss Reid and Simba. They were about to do their show. And then Miss Reid was like, yo, dude, I kind of recognize you from Twitter. You are such a vibe, man. She was like, no, thank you so much. And then she asked me what I was there for. I told her I was there for an audition. She's like, no, don't worry, you got this. And Dan was like, yo, okay, fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to record you being on air. So there's a studio. There's two studios at ZFM, Studio A and Studio B. So we went into the other studio to record me on radio, like just having a conversation, like we're doing right now.
Yeah.
So it's like we need a topic, we need music, we need pointers. So I'm going to help you with that, so that when we start recording, we have a direction that we are going. And then I was like, hey, cool. And then he's like, you know what? Just go over the weekend, think about it, think about a topic, and then we record on Monday. Cool. Went back on Monday, we did the recording, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then that was that. And I think a month or two from that, that's when he called me back. It's like, yo, the bosses liked your vibe, they liked your energy, they liked your topic. They think you have what it takes to be a radio presenter, right?
Wow.
I know, right?
How did you
To be
feel?
honest, it was God. All that it was God. I will never take the credit.
Absolutely.
So it was just God. Exactly. So I went there. I started training for radio. So what happened was I wasn't the only one that was called in for that training, to start training for radio. So they something called the radio masterclass. There were people that had auditioned for radio and then they were taken in. They went for school. They went to school for radio for a couple of months. So they were then put into different radio stations to then go for radio attachment.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't come in through that process. I just came in through my own process. So I met this group of amazing, young, bright radio presenters that had been, going through school for radio, and it was so intimidating because all of them were like so talented, and we were supposed to then go through radio attachment. So we were assigned to different shows. And I remember the first show that I was assigned to was the Saturday Top 40 show by Captain Awesome. So he's the one who taught me 80% of everything that I know on radio. I was taught by him. Mm-hmm. He taught me how to do links. He taught me how to create content. He taught me how to be confident. And we just kind of had a connection when we were on air. So that kind of helped me as well. So from that show, I then went to a Sunday show. It was a Sunday morning show, a gospel show. So I went from like a wild morning show to like a chilled gospel show with Miss Becky. So it was very interesting because the difference was massive, but I then had to adjust. So I guess there was a reason for that happening. So I did that show for a month with Miss Becky. And then after that, I then went back to a Saturday breakfast show with Simba. And I was just learning during that time.
Yeah.
Trying to find my feet, trying to see how I would sound on radio, trying to just, it takes time to shape a personality as well. Absolutely. Especially when you are starting. So after that, the bosses had to select the people that they thought were good enough for ZFM, and people that aligned to, I think, the brand that they are pushing on ZFM. And I made it amongst, yeah, a group of, I think, 10 individuals. I was one of the 3 or 4 that made it, and again, it was God.
Yeah.
So then everything started. That's when I started now trying to find my, because what happens is when it comes to radio, all they do is they give you the platform. What you do with it is all up to you.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be hands on. You have to be involved, because it's kind of eat what you kill, because no one is going to be responsible for you if you don't get yourself in there, or if you don't take yourself there. So I had to start working on my brand, my sound, the kind of music that I want to be associated with, the kind of content that I want to be associated with.
Yeah.
And I remember I started doing a graveyard. It's called a graveyard shift. The one I was telling you about. It's from 12 midnight to 3 a.m. So that was the first show that I got on radio on my own.
Wow.
So
How
I
did
had
that
to.
feel?
It was overwhelming, because I remember the very first day that I went for that show, I was kind of nervous, because it was during those days when electricity was a mission in Zimbabwe. You would know that electricity comes back around 11. So a lot of people will be up during that time,
Mm-hmm.
either cooking, washing, ironing, or doing something. So there were a lot of people listening during that time, and there was so much engagement. I had to be on point, so it was a bit overwhelming, but I then got used to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I started building something that, with time, it grew until I was then moved from that show to a Saturday breakfast show. I finally got my own daytime radio show. Young Gundega. I started doing that show on my own.
Wow.
And that was kind of massive for me, because I was still new, and I was still trying to find my vibe, trying to actually find where I actually fit in. And then boom, I got the show. So I was learning on the job. I was learning everything, literally. Learning OBs, learning how to do commercial executions, learning how to do links, learning not to speak too much on radio, just because ZFM is a music radio station, so you don't have to talk a lot. You just have to go in, go out, play music, go in, go out, play music. So that was kind of um, the best way for me to learn. I made so many mistakes. I even look back and think to myself, how did I even survive on that show? Because I was literally doing it on my own. But I learned. And one thing that I'm so grateful for is my boss, is Dan. He's the programs manager at ZFM. So he's practically my boss. He was very patient with me.
Mm-hmm.
He was very helpful. He helped me to build the show, to create a structure for the show. He helped me to, just how to handle myself, because I guess he saw something in me. He still does. I still I don't know what he sees, but he sees it.
Yeah.
And I had to literally believe in myself. Like, yo, I mean, if Dan can see it, why can't I see it? So I started just, believing in myself more, because in a space like that, you're dealing with big personalities, people that have a lot of things to do. I mean, I'm talking about Miss Reid, Ahmad, Patience Musa, TK. I'm talking about all these big personalities that have been in the industry for a long time.
Yeah.
And I had them to I literally could just approach them, and they could help me. And I didn't want to, waste that opportunity or take that opportunity for granted. So I literally had to be on their case every time. And that's how I became friends with Miss Reid, because I'll be like, yo, Sha, this is what I want to do. How do I do it? She'll be like, no, listen, try this, try that. And then if that doesn't work, try this. So we kind of just then became friends based on me wanting to learn. So it was very intimidating as well because I didn't want to feel like Ndrugunetawad type thing because these are people that have a lot of things to do, but they would always be like, yo, listen, if you need anything, just hit me up. If you need help with whatever, just come through, come to my office, call me, schedule a meeting, whatever time, just come through. So it just kind of, well, it took a lot of getting used to actually realize like, yo, Miss Red actually said she has time for me. If I need something, I can just literally hit her up. So I learned a lot. I was just like, yo, man, like sometimes it's one thing. Someone told me that it's one thing being on top and it's the other staying there. It's like staying on top or staying in an environment that you wanted to be in is the most difficult part. Like wapinda, but then kugara urimo is is something that you then have to just re-strategize everything because your strategy was getting there. Now you're there. You need to re-strategize, see how you're gonna stay there, see how you're gonna grow there. So um during that time, that was 20, yeah, this is now 2020, and then COVID started. So it kind of slowed down my progress now because not so many people were going to the radio station. People were working from home, and we were doing radio virtually, and that kind of slowed down my progress because now I wasn't meeting a lot of people as much as I was before. And trust me, doing radio from home is kind of different from being in the studio. The vibe is a bit different because yeah, you are at home.
Yeah.
Like yeah, it's different. But if you're in the studio, there's an energy that comes with that. So 2020 was a bit difficult for me because yeah, I wasn't going to the station as much as I would have wanted. And yeah, that kind of slowed down my growth. And but I had to adjust again. Like, yo, okay, this is the situation, right?
Yeah, you had to make a
I want
plan.
my voice to be heard.
Yeah.
I had to make a plan. I want my voice to be heard in radio, right? So how am I going to do this? So I started co-presenting the show with another radio. I'm going to say radio legend. His name is Tony Friday. Tony Friday has been doing radio for like, I don't know, is like 2 decades, 20 plus years of him doing radio. So I was now doing the show with him, and it was a lot. It was a lot for me because I mean, this was Tony Friday. I mean, I had to learn as much, but at the same time, I had to build my brand around my vibe, around my identity. Because me and him, we are kind of different. But he's more into soul, deep kind of conversations. So I had to merge my vibe with his vibe, and that kind of took some time. But when we got there, we were good. We had an amazing time during the time we were together on that show. And again, COVID. So I had to be working from home. He had to be working in the studio. So it kind of killed the vibe that we had, but it was great.
Yeah.
Until I then left that show, and I'm where I'm at right now, where I've been getting opportunities to stand in for like midday radio, drive time radio, which is like the prime time of radio in Zimbabwe. So I've grown a lot. I'm still growing because I know that I haven't reached my potential, and there's so much that I still need to do. But what I'm just so grateful for is obviously, besides the opportunity, is the fact that I told myself that if I don't work, if I don't put in the work, to be very honest with you, and in the creative industry, if you don't get yourself out there, no one will.
Yeah, that's true.
You might have talent is not enough. Talent is the least thing that you have or that you need for you to actually get there. So I think it's 10% of everything. So you need to like be intentional about everything.
Yeah.
Because to be very honest, if you don't become intentional about everything, you won't make it.
Yeah.
There's so many people that I know that have talent, but then because they don't put in the work, they don't get themselves out there, they might never ever make it.
Yeah.
So I quickly realized that because I had a conversation with, I think it was Miss Reed or Dan, that guy was like, you know what? You need to put in the work. You need to be there. You need to be available. You need to, because you're dealing with big personalities, with big egos. It's like so many egos walking in the corridors of an organization. So you need to humble yourself, fadzam tengi, and get there. You know what I mean? So I had to do that, and I'm grateful that I had to put myself in a space where I was like, you know what? Yeah, let me learn. And I'm still learning. And I don't give excuses if I'm called to be there. I just get there.
Yeah. You show up.
And that took a lot. Show up.
Mm.
Especially showing up. Showing up is the best because I know people who are very good photography, very good singers, very good actresses and actors, but sometimes they don't want to show up for the crappy gigs in quotation marks because they think they are bigger than those things. Now they think, no, you know what, I'm too good for this. But to be very honest, the only way you can become better is if you show up.
Yeah.
So I had to learn that, and I also had to find a balance between doing radio and being a statistician because there are two extreme careers that may never even meet. But I had to find a balance there because I went to school for this. I went to school to deal with numbers and data. And now this is what I love. This is my passion. So I had to find a balance between the two as well so that I make it work.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much where I'm at right now. Maybe in a year or two, I'm gonna be bigger than where I'm at now.
Yeah, just keep
Hopefully,
showing up and
God willing.
keep growing. Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Yeah.
What a journey. I mean, from a statistician to a radio presenter, that's pretty incredible. How
Yeah.
it's I know we're running out of time and everything. But briefly just outline that experience from like high school. You said you were picking up already that, hey, I'm a creative.
Well, to be very honest with you, it was difficult.
Mm-hmm.
It was difficult because I remember when I told my parents, like, I got a job at ZFM. The first thing my mom asked me is like, are you going to be using your degree there? You know,
Mm-hmm.
that was the first thing she asked me. I was like, no, I'm not. And I could tell that she didn't understand. So what are you going to be doing there? You are a statistician, so explain to me. But I guess it was also because she didn't really know that it was a passion, it was a thing, because all they knew was our son went to varsity, graduated. Now we want him to have a job that goes along with his degree or honor. But then being in school now, I was in the faculty of science, which is like a faculty of geeks. Like, in my class, there were intelligent people. I don't think I've ever been around intelligent people like that. They were so intelligent people. It was so intimidating. So what I had to do to make sure that I survived, because I won't lie to you, I wasn't the most intelligent student in my class. So one thing that I'm so good at, and I thank God for, is my people skills. I managed to realize that, you know what, sometimes for you to survive in an environment, you need the people. You need the people that are actually flourishing in that environment, which is like a principle that works across any industry, be it corporate, be it, I mean, literally anywhere. So I was friends with the best students. I made sure that I was friends with the best, the best mathematician, the best guy in fluid mechanics, the best guy in linear mathematics, in vector calculus, in everything. So I had to be friends with those guys. And I would hang out with them, and literally they would find time to teach me. So I would kind of have extra lessons from my friends, discussions to make it work, because I knew that, you know what, if I leave campus and go in town to the studio to try to record a song, or to just record something, I'll be missing out on time. But if I come back, if I see Joe, there was a friend of mine called Joe and Ephraim, if I see Precious, there was this girl called Precious. I've never met anyone as intelligent as her. So they became my friends. So that helped me a lot. I just surrounded myself with the best people in what I was doing, or at what I was doing. So that kind of helped me to pass as well, and to just stay focused, because I would see what these guys would do. They were focused. So I had no option but to be focused.
Yeah.
So they carried me from like second year to our final year, and it worked out perfectly well for me.
Wow, that's incredible. It's I think someone listening can relate, who's been in a space where they're doing something and it's not like their heart is not fully beating for that, and then maybe they're trying to transition into something they're passionate about. So hopefully that will encourage that kind of person, or someone in a situation like that. Yeah. So anyways,
because the thing is,
sorry.
No,
Before we
I
end
was
this
saying
episode,
the thing is, we sorry. I wanted to say, no one can ever, no man is an island.
Yeah.
That is a lie. And sometimes there are people we don't even like, but they are so good at what they do. We just have to find a balance and try to learn as much as we can from those people.
Absolutely.
And trust me, it's the best gift you can ever give to yourself, especially if it's for free.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know that this person is good at what they do. Be it school, be it whatever. Just try to be in their space. Just try to just learn as much from them. And trust me, you will get there. Yeah. Pretty much.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Before we do end this episode, is there anything you would like to say to a young creative person who might be listening to this and might possibly be in the same shoes that you were in and is trying to figure out what to do next?
To be very honest with you, the thing is, creative people, we are working in an environment where some people don't really see this as a career. Mm-hmm. It's very difficult to convince even our parents that, this could literally be something that I can earn a living, or something that I can actually sustain a living with. So the thing now is, to be very honest, hard work will never ever pay less. It will always pay more. It might not pay back instantly, but one thing I know is you need to put in the work and don't ever cut corners. Like just try to go from A to XYZ. No, that's why there's a B, C, D,
Yeah.
E, F, G for you to get there, right? If you skip that, you will never know what happens at E. You will never know what happens at F. Maybe at F, that's where your biggest lesson was going to be, and that's where everything was going to start making sense. But you jumped that. Now you're at XYZ. You will never know. So trust the process. I know it's such a cliche statement, and it's so frustrating because sometimes you're putting in the work, but the results are not showing. But trust the process. I'm a Christian. I believe in putting everything in God's hands. Right? There's a statement that says God may never or might never meet your schedule, your personal schedule, but He's always on time. You might have your own schedule, like, God, I want by August 2021, I want this done. By November, I want this done. Come January 22, I want to be here or I want to be there. That is your schedule. And God might not meet that schedule, but He is always on time. Always on time. Always. So trust that process, but you also need to prepare yourself for the time when God comes through, because sometimes the opportunity might come through and you're not ready because you are not putting in the work. You're going to slack on it, or you're just going to sabotage yourself because you're not putting in the work. Yeah. You find yourself you find yourself in the same environment with that you look up to, but because you were not putting work in yourself, you might not even know what to ask them. You might not even know how to approach them because you don't have anything. You haven't been putting in the work. So put in the work. Work.
Always be prepared.
That's the number one policy that I'm working on. Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much for that piece of advice. I'm sure someone listening managed to pick a lot of things, a lot of lessons from your journey and from your advice. Thank you so much for coming on here and sharing your experience, Tatenda. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I really do appreciate this.
Sure, no problem.